Yeah.
All right,
I just keep
hello
it steady on
everybody.
the
Welcome
magic.
back to
Do
the
my thing, I'm
Uprooted
healing, it's
podcast.
fantastic.
Yeah, we're gonna just have
If I
some
fall,
good
rise
conversation
automatic.
about some good
You ain't
topics
on
with
that,
some
you
good people.
know. I'm the one raised myself like a tree from the roots. West side girl, cause she lit in the coast. East side girl when she speaks to the roots. Stay 100 cause she on with the truth. Been there on struggle, know that it pass. Only going up, yeah, the pain don't last. Ooh, take off. Ooh, take off. Ooh, take off. This is take off. Shorty like Brandy, fight like Monica. What you know about her? Baby girl rising, way to the top. Shaking the world, don't expect her to stop. Purpose so great, she get what she got. Follow her step, cause she following God. What you need more, got a heart full of gold. Even at times when it's raining and cold. Ooh, she bout take off. Ooh, she bout.
Hey, it's your girl Hannah, aka Ruta. Welcome to the Uprooted podcast and to our weekly installment of Black Women Wednesday. I have the beautiful Salem that is going to be coming on, and we're going to be talking about social activism, specifically in regards to Black women and the movement. So it's going to be dope. Really excited. Okay, I see you, girl. About to add you in like 2.5. I'm just letting everybody join. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so glad your girl's not sick no more. I'm out here, you feel me? No more congestion, none of that. So we're gonna have a beautiful talk. Super, super excited for what we gonna discuss today. Beyonce really be going. Oh, my mama in here. Hey, mama. Okay, let me add you. Woo. Hey, hey.
Hi.
How are
It's
you?
nice to see your face.
I know. I've been behind the scenes this last week. It's been so
okay?
nice.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm no longer sick. Say bye to Corona. She could go somewhere. Yeah, I'm like, she could go somewhere, get lost. No longer.
I'm crying.
But no, sis, like for real, like I don't know if people talk about this, but like my smell is still not all the way back.
I heard someone like they'd gotten COVID in like September and they still can't smell and they can't taste anything.
Okay.
I really hope that's not your situation.
I can taste. So I'm happy for that. I can smell things that are like close to me. Okay. But like this is how I know my smell isn't bad because I was making bunna earlier and I couldn't smell the bunna.
Not the bunna. That's bad. That's bad.
I know. And I can't believe this is my life. I actually usually like before this had like a really, really sensitive nose. Mm-hmm. So I'm just like, this is so
not
weird.
Not anymore. Well, I'm glad you're okay. If that's the worst you're walking away with.
Exactly. At least I'm not like the body aches. Okay, thank you, Jesus. You know what I mean? Like those things. I'm like, thank God, get that out of the way. So yeah, but I had to take a break because last week was a lot. How did you feel? Like this whole time has been a lot. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think I can feel that people are burning out a little bit. And I think, especially with everything that's happening, I for one haven't honestly really read any news regarding the United States like since the election night. Like right. I don't know. I have no sense of presence here in the US. So then to suddenly like be seeing all this shit happening, I was like, this is so like I can't believe this reality exists also. Yeah. You know, so I think it was just exhausting, like seeing all of that. And like, you know, people are starting to hear back from their families a little bit, like who have family like us. So I think it was also like there was just a lot of grief in the air. And that's like so hard to handle and like see people have to reconcile, and especially so far away, you know, like there's so much like helplessness also. It was something in the last 2 weeks like shifted, and it was sad. It was really sad.
Like I was joking with my friend because I was like, I didn't even need Corona to like be in quarantine because I was like, literally I'm an empath, so everybody's energy is like exhausting to me. Like because I already have my own grief, right? Like for those people who know, like my dad lives in ID, so like that having that immediate like, whoa, like my family is like literally in danger, was already like so jarring and shocking and like traumatic for me. And then to like be around other people, and it's like it didn't matter if I love you or not. Like just being around other people is like, I cannot take on your guys' fear and anxiety because I already have too much of my own. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I know, and it's also like, this is so, it's so isolating outside of the Tagato community what is happening. You and I understand, like we have, you know, an unspoken understanding of what's happening and its effect on us, but like talking to other people about this, like it feels fucking crazy. Like it feels crazy to like talk to people, you know, like even if it's like other Africans or whatever, to be like, yo, like there's a whole ass genocide happening to our people, and we are here in the States where there's all this shit happening, and we have to show up, you know, in a fucking pandemic to work and like be a person in this dumbass capitalism, you know. So it's like there's just so many ways that it just like feels so disembodied and far away, but it's like it's a weight every day also on our hearts. So it's like the weirdest thing having to like balance all of that.
Exactly. It's so tiring. It's so exhausting. Like we were texting offline for those of you guys who were not privy to that conversation. And I was like, I literally, like, what is sleep, right? Like, it's so bad. Like, my mom's on here, she shouldn't get mad, but I like go to sleep at like 3 or 4 in the morning.
That's sick.
It's so sick. I hate it. I feel like a vampire, but it just like, I can't, like, I don't even know how to explain like my anxiety. Like it's just like I'll be chilling. Okay, so this is what Oprah said one time. Y'all know me and Oprah, you feel me? That's my girl. Okay, so I remember her, like, she said something one time where she was like, man, I enjoy gloomy rainy days. I was like, me too, right? I really do. And she was like, yeah, sunny days, like you feel like you're expected to do something. Like you're expected to, like, you know, be productive or go outside and do all those things. But like me, winter, I'm like, yes, like I have the perfect excuse to stay home. Right. Like people are not trying to be out there in the cold anyway, so like there's this less pressure to be like productive. So I think sometimes like I'm already like naturally a night owl, but sometimes in the morning I feel like, oh, I'm supposed to do something right now. Like, I was like, oh shit, like what am I supposed to do? You feel time like really ticking away. And I'm just like, oh damn, I'm not here for it. I'm really not. It's been exhausting. So I think I've seen a couple of people. Ben, you said you love Seattle. I like gloomy. I don't like rain. So we'd have to meet halfway there. Somehow. But no, Seattle. I definitely love Seattle. I have a mad family out there, so respect to Seattle. But it's been a lot. And then specifically last week, I like put out so there was the video. So for people who don't know, even though it's mostly yellow in here, so I know y'all not Tagaros. With the ongoing war in Tigray, there's mad atrocities happening, like mad atrocities, right? Like we expect these things or whatever, but for some reason, when that like clip came out with the army general or whatever, I don't care who his name was, I don't nobody tell me in the chat. When he was like, oh, well, we expect like women to be raped during war, but why is it still happening after? I was like, what? Like, when I like lost my shit. I lost my shit. I think everyone can tell, like, I've been doing lives, I've been, you know, in meetings behind, like, some people know, like, I'm really behind the scenes too on stuff. And I've been in this every day, in and out, right? But when I seen that, I don't know why, it was like a gut punch. Like, it just really, like, triggered me beyond anything. I'm not even a big tweeter, but like I was like, oh hell no. So like I got my little Twitter fingers. And then I, like, you know, I posted it and I was just like, oh shit, like a lot of people are reposting this. Like it was kind of like overwhelming for me. Like and then you had such a beautiful analysis, right? Like you didn't just repost it, you actually like shared context of like why these things happen. What are the systems like that uphold this these atrocities, right? Like what systems uphold violence, particularly against women. And we had, and I knew that I was like, if anybody gonna do it, it's gonna be you. Like I knew it was gonna be you. I was like, my good sis, like she's coming through with the knowledge.
Thank you.
And I was just like, yes, this is it. I was like literally reading. I'm just like, yep, like, read post, because I was like, my God, this shit is trash. And we had a discussion earlier in this, I don't know, in the summer, whenever I first started, and we were talking about Black Lives Matter, and we were talking about social activism during that time. So we'll kind of come back around to it, but let's start with like, what are the systems like of oppression that like particularly we're talking about in this instance that uphold violence against women? Like I always call out the patriarchy, I always call out white supremacy, but you, I mean, add to it what like specifically, or if you could even talk about the research that you did.
Yeah, of course. And I think this would be a good time just to like put a bit of a trigger warning out there. Like this conversation is going to revolve a lot around rape and sexual assault, at least this beginning part. So people should like step out of this conversation if it feels like too much. And also like if at any point talking about violence, you know, we are inundated with violence of our own people recently. Like if this becomes too much, like people should, like you don't have to sit here and listen to this.
Yes. Thank you, because I was over that. I was like, look, if you join it, but you right. Trigger warning.
Yeah, and that day was really like, it was so hard seeing everyone post about they're raping our women, they're doing this and they're that, and it was like, it was just like, it was heartbreaking, and it was really, really sick, and it. I immediately thought of that paper that I had shared. I had written this like my sophomore junior year of college, and I was in a Black political theory class, and I had actually written this paper specifically about how within slavery, like white men consistently raping Black women like affected the creation of like a Black nation in the United States. And it like immediately applies to this, because when you think about like a nation is imagined, right? Like we imagine ourselves like as Tagadu, and we put images and myths and cultural practices to uphold that nation. And so like a really, really big part of how we imagine ourselves as people, like that mythology like falls onto women a lot of the time. Like women, you know, we are cultural bearers of Tagadu identity. Like, you know, even if it's as simple as like the cooking, but it's also like, you know, everything I learned about being Tagadu, like so much of that comes from my mom and like what she's told me, and, you know, the food that she has like taught us to make, and the way that the women in our community also organize and like make sure we're all good and like we're all sticking together and we all know what's up and like how to act right and whatever. So that's one way, like those really intangible ways that like women are producing the nation, right? Like that kind of labor. And then there's also like physically, right? And we come from a patriarchal society where like it really matters if you have kids. Like women who are unmarried and don't have kids are like seen a certain type of way, right?
Me. My mom's in the chat. Well, I get my mom is in the chat. I guarantee she's at home like, she needs to get married. Like that's her thought right now.
My mom today was like, where is the men? Where is the men that you are trying to? I was like, I just moved out. Like, you know,
I was like, first of all, where's the check? Hold on.
Right. Exactly. And it's so ironic about that is like I learned financial independence from my mom. You know, and it's like that's what we're able to do. You know, so anyway, we can come back to that. But so women are like producing the culture of the nation, but then they're also like physically producing the nation through having kids, like through child rearing. So there's also like there's so much importance into like women continuing the bloodline, and I can see that like being fortified right now, like you know, in the way that my mom was like, you have to be with a Tagadu, like we thought it was bad before. Thought it was bad before.
The pressure is real.
The whole bloodline, literally, you know, they're like the whole like longevity of our culture right now, especially looking in the face of genocide, they are looking at us as like, you're gonna have some Tagadu ass kids.
Yeah,
you know,
they're like, y'all need to hurry up and repopulate. I'm like, listen, Linda, can I deal with the trauma first?
So that's exactly. So think about the trauma that is being, you know, like, is being brought onto these women through sexual assault. Like, it can like completely change your ability to have children, your desire to have children. Like, who, you know, like, there's so much we don't know about how trauma shows up in the body, and that can so easily, like, reproductive systems are so sensitive, like, especially to have like violence onto your reproductive system. Like, who knows if you're able to have children beyond that, you know? So it's like, when there is sexual assault happening, like, it is systematic because it is cutting through like their ability to produce more people to the nation, right? Literally. And then if they do get pregnant, if you know, it's like they're producing a child born out of war, like out of rape, someone who might be half Amhara, who might be half Eritrean, you know, who is like a direct result of this conflict. And so that child also is like marked by that kind of violence, right? And I don't know that we know yet like how to undo that, because there's still so much stigma that we have around sex in general, that I don't know how we would heal like all of these like attitudes around sex and sexuality also. So it's like it just creates so much like tension and so much trauma and so much more shit to heal. So it's like, so going back to the core tenet, like, women are producers of the nation. When you sexually assault a woman, you are debilitating her ability to produce the nation. And that's Literally. why rape is a tenet of war. Like, it just like psychologically sucks with the like continuation of your people, you know? So it's like, it's sadly like, it's not surprising that it's happening in war, but it doesn't make it excusable within war or without a war. Like, people, you know, like, it's disgusting, you know, like,
I know. I'm right here trying to be with you, because like, literally, like, that was the point I was trying to make in my tweet, is that this shit happens whether there's a war or not. Like, and because we don't address it in peace times, we continue to see it being used as a tool during war. You know what I mean? Like, if it was just unacceptable across the board and we could just stop violence against women as a tool, like, literally the thing that disgusts me is that you're using a tool, like, you're hurting women, but like the goal that they're trying to accomplish is hurting the man attached to the woman. So it's still like we're secondary even in our own victimhood.
And it's like, and it's exactly that. It's like, it also is making women further victims in war when they are already like victims of violence. And here's the other part. So rape is like a particular type of gender-based violence. But like, we live in a world and in a system that's also reproduced in Ethiopia that like repeatedly and systematically disenfranchises and subjugates Black women, right? And we see that extremely harshly in Ethiopia when it comes to like socioeconomic whatever, right? Because so many people are living in poverty. So in a world where you know, Black women are like continuing to being harmed, like every act of war is gender-based violence, because it's gonna like way disproportionately affect the women of that region than it is the men, right? Like, of course, men are losing their lives, like they are being, you know, they're being killed, like they're being tortured, they're being detained, whatever, like they're having to put their lives on the line, you know, like all of that is important. And then there's also the women who are like running around trying to save injured people. There are women who are, you know, like trying to keep kids alive. Like 30 years ago, you know, my grandma kept 7 kids alive in war. Like they would go into the Haggadah 7, hide under trees, like trying to make sure that people weren't getting bombed. So it's not just that like they're becoming victims to that kind of sexual assault, but they're also victims to the war. And then we don't see all the ways that women are like hauling ass to make sure like people stay the fuck alive. It's not just the men that are fucking fighting, it's women who are putting their lives on the line equally to make sure like
our
people
women fight. Our women are not on the
exactly
side. Like, they are to God lie too.
So there has to be a way that we like look at this more expansive, like, you know, like everyone and their fucking mother was posting about women being raped. And I understand, because it's such a visceral reaction, and it's such a, it, no one can deny how disgusting rape is. Like, no one can deny that is a violence that should not exist.
Exactly.
But there's a way that gets exceptionalized, and we don't see like how important all the other acts of violence that are occurring right now is like gender-based violence that we have to immediately put an end to, right? Like, don't be mad the day that women get raped. They've been getting raped, right? Like, people should have been this mad like on November 4th, like as soon as the shit was happening, or even previously, in the way that like women had to live in poverty, So it's also like, there's a way that we can pay attention to it and be like, this is so disturbing and this is so awful, and also like really pay attention to all the other violences that are going on, and like bring attention to that manner, to that also.
Because I think about just, right, like like a holistic woman, right? Like, what are the things that we're up against that constantly even put us in danger of being victimized, right? Being assaulted or experiencing violence in any way. Like, the fact that I want to go back to an earlier point you made. Like, imagine, right? We have this debate in America about women's rights to have an abortion, right? So that's been in the news, especially in the last couple of years. They would only make an exception if you were raped, then you can get an abortion. Like, stupid shit like that. And I'm like, no, it's her body. She gets to decide, right? But also, like, think about right now, the hospitals are looted, okay? They barely have supplies for our own army, right? Like, they barely have supplies for the people, the civilians that are being hurt and injured right now. So imagine a woman going through that kind of physical violence. Like, she's not getting medical treatment. Like, she's not. And then if you do get pregnant, what is she going to do? Is abortion an option? No. But you know what they might try to do is try to do a homemade one. And then what does she do? She risks her life again.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's like a continuous trauma.
And it's like, everyone there right now is at risk of starvation. So like, who even, she doesn't even have the resources to like take care of her body, to even have like, to bring this baby forth. So it's like, there is just like, there's so many layers to like how these things were already in place to create this kind of violence, and then how they're going to continue to be in place to like, just like to continue to put women at harm. So it's awful. It's so bad. Like, it's so scary, and it's like, there is just like how do we reconcile it? Like, people are being harmed in ways that we like don't really know and like can't see, and we are just starting to get word of what that is looking like and like what people are experiencing. And it's like we have like a long road ahead of healing to do, and we have a long road ahead to like hold each other, like, and hold our grief also, because there's so much grieving to do for like all the death, of course, but also just like the violence that people have had to face, and like also like the grief, like Tigray was like, it felt like Tigray was like about to be okay, before this happened, like, and now it's like we have all of this development to go back into, we have like so much redoing to do.
That's what happens, right? Like, this is the continuous cycle of generational trauma that I try to explain to people and talk about, right? It's not just like I know how we're talking about ceasefire, we're talking about humanitarian aid, we're talking about all these things that they need currently, right? But we also need to start asking the questions of like, how do we make sure that this does not happen again? Like, we cannot keep doing this every 30 years, rinse and repeat, right? So like, we need to take care of things too in peacetime that make sure that like we do not end up back in these type of wars, in these type of conflicts. And like, men, I'm talking to you, you need to step the fuck up. Like, this shit is not okay. Patriarchy and misogyny do not only hurt women, it hurts you overall. If women are the backbone and we're dealing with this trauma on top of trying to raise your damn kids, like, it's just not right. Like, we need more help, and we need more support, we need more empathy, we need more understanding, and we need this fucking space to talk about our issues. And we need to talk about like what we're holding and the pain that we're holding, because it's not okay, like, at all. I mean, the fact that like, I don't know if you've had this experience. Like, I remember talking to my mom about like growing up in Adi, and what were women doing? If they got their period and they were in a lot of pain, were they going to school? No. So like our girls are being less educated overall. You know what I'm saying? Like they're missing out on that opportunity. And then what are they expected to do? They're expected to do so much like work in the house to help raise their siblings instead of being a child themselves. Like we're already raising kids as kids ourselves. Like I literally need a break. Like I need a whole break. I've been helping people raise their kids since I was a child. Like that shit sounds cute to people. They're like, you're gonna be a great mom. I've been a mom. I just didn't get the title. Like
exactly.
shit is like I need a 3-year break. Leave me alone, leave my womb alone. Like let me like
not the womb.
Like leave my womb alone. Like get out of my junk. Like people really need their business, but we don't have the space to even grieve these things. Like, and what I said too was like, we're talking about this so openly. So if y'all know that this violence exists for women, why don't we talk about this when the violence is not there? Like, you know what I mean? Like women in our culture, what are we told? We're like, oh, don't bring it up. People are gonna look at you weird. They're like, everyone's gonna talk about you. They're gonna talk about me. They need to be talking about the rapist. I'm not the problem. So what we do is like we put shame and guilt on women for something that was done to them, adds to the damn trauma. And then what? We're supposed to turn around and feel like comfortable marrying men and wanting to be with men after that? Like you think I'm gonna feel safe in like a sexual environment or having intimacy with a man after that? No. Like, so overall, like, you know what I'm saying? Like women are getting hurt over and over and over and over again, and we don't even talk about this. And like we're supposed to just expect. So after this, what are we gonna do? Brush it under the what? Like that's It just makes me mad. Like I'm just like, you guys literally. I'm sorry, but y'all make me sick. So if you're gonna talk about this, if you're gonna talk about violence against women, then talk about all of it. Talk about all the systems that you freaking like prop up that put us in danger in the first place.
Yeah, I think it like pulling back to what you were saying earlier, like about men stepping up. It's like war fits into like a larger picture of masculinity. Like masculinity is like literally a tenet of war, and there's like a way that we need to move away from that attachment to power. You know, like there is actually no reason for war. Like
there's not.
You know, like it makes no sense. It's literally a power game, and there is no like in a like, you know, in the ideal like collectivist world, like war would literally not exist because we would not have an attachment to domination, right? And like domination is like such a tenet in the way that the world works right now, such a tenet of masculinity. And so there has to be a way that we like empower our communities to like not be so patriarchal and not be so attached to power and like be collectivist and unified and like exactly, and like avoid violence. You know, like there's a way that we can avoid violence like this. Like not all violence is necessary, right? There's a way that like we can avoid harm. You know, sometimes we don't know how our actions affect others, but like you don't have to rape anybody. Like you don't have to touch anybody if they don't want you to touch them. Like you don't have to wield a gun against anybody if you do not want to, and nor should that pressure like even exist, you know? So I think there's like, and that's a global conversation, right? That is a humanity conversation to have
all over the world. All over the world. Speak on it, sis. This is not just happening in Tigray. This happens in your neighborhood. Like I don't know if the numbers are the same. It's been a while since I've done research. I know before it was like 1 in 4 women. 1 in 4. So I want you to count 4 comments down, okay? Just count 4 comments down. 1 in 4 women will experience sexual violence in their lifetime. That's disgusting. Like, that's literally disgusting. So you have a bunch of women walking around with the trauma of that, and then you have us like we having all these little cute relationship conversations and dating and This is a part of it. This trauma is a part of the reason why your relationships are so toxic in the first place.
Yeah. So there's just like a massive like collective like come to Jesus moment that we have to have, and I think, you know, a part of what you and I said we would chat about today is like dreaming of the way forward, right? And like what our collective identity can look like moving forward. And I think that there's a way that we can appreciate how in the past, like, we have not had these conversations. We have not had open conversations about how violence is enacted in our community towards one another. Yeah, exactly. Whole livelihoods are like being destructed right now, and so that, like, we have to adjust for that, like, exactly. And we have to like use whatever we have to like make sure that people's day-to-day lives are good there, right? I was talking I'm in therapy, and I talk to my therapist a lot about like what is happening around this, and like, you know, she's like helping me navigate like whatever, all the shit that this is bringing up. And what came up? Something came up where she was asking me about like what, like basically what we were talking about like how is I envisioning the future for Tigray? Like, what am I holding hope onto, whatever? And I'm like, we have the power to like help make everyday lives more livable in Tigray. Like, we had that power before. We were doing our best to make that happen, and now we see the urgency in that, and like that's something that we can continue to like.
Oh, you broke up. Okay, you broke up a little bit, but I think I heard what you said. So the goal of like tangibly, like making sure that, yeah, you're good. Making sure that every day like is safe for people, right? Like that they're not in danger of having to make decisions that put them in scary situations, but also that they're not even at risk of being invaded in the first place, or like, you know what I mean? Different things like that. I think someone else put in the comments, just wanted to address that. I've been saying this from the beginning of the time. I was like, the future is female. You can add me if you want. They said we need more Tagadu women in leadership. And then somebody else also said, we also made it shameful to be critical of our culture, which is a symptom of shame itself, which I think you kind of spoke on earlier, is like the fact that we're even having this conversation openly, right? And addressing it as transparently as we can, is definitely a step that we never see in our community. Our moms never had that opportunity, our grandmas, our cousins, or whatever. The strength that these women have had to hold this in, right? Like, it's just amazing, because I couldn't imagine, like, my grandma's in her 90s. She survived for now, at least. Like, I'm still fighting every day to make sure it stays that way. This is the third war she's seen, right? Like, she's raised children through this. She's lost her husband. She's lost the son. She's lost the daughter. You know what I mean? Like, a lot. Like, she's finally seeing grandchildren grow up, and it's like, this is what you have to deal with. And then thinking about what she already has dealt with, and she's still going. I'm like, my God, like, I just can't even imagine. And then I'm lucky, right? Like, I'm blessed enough to be in a situation where I have the opportunity to break that curse for my family and for my nation, so that we don't see this happen to the next generation of women. Like, we're going to help the women that are suffering right now heal from this, and we're going to make sure they don't ever go through this again.
Yeah. And I want us like, and I wonder what that looks like also. Like, how do we make sure, how do we ensure that this doesn't happen again, but also like not live on the defensive? You know, I don't want us to then like live in fear that, oh, if it happened, it's going to happen again. You know, like, there has to be some way that we like, you know, like my greatest prayer for our people at this point is like that they know ease, you know, that they know peace. Like, Tagaros have not had it easy, you know, like they have bring simplicity. Like, we you know, because we're not dealing with that immediate harm, like we have energy to expend on this that they don't. And I also think like we have to learn also like what that means for people in Tigray, like, you know, because that's going to look ease for my grandmother is going to like look different than what I think ease is, you know. So there also has to be a way that like we really connect with our people there and like understand like what would make your life easy, like what would make your life enjoyable, like how can we like help you, you know, like live out the rest of your days like feeling okay. Because I think that like that at this point like feels like what is urgent and is important. And I hope that like I want that to mobilize us.
Yeah. Oh, you're froze. Your internet. You got that Comcast. It broke up a little bit at the end. Okay, yeah, they said they couldn't hear. The audio was out. I think what you said, what I caught from it was, you know, respecting the moment that we're in, respecting that, like, you know, our first priority is always to end the war and end the violence, but also thinking about when we say rebuild, it's not just rebuild buildings. It's like, how do we envision a future that our family doesn't have to survive from? You know what I mean? That's what I think about. Like, I want you to live a life that you don't have to survive from, that you can thrive in and get out of this like scarcity model of never having enough. You know what I mean? And feeling like our parents like wake up and they're like immediately productive. I don't know if you like notice that, but like they can't really sit and just chill for a minute. Okay, so it's not me. Y'all can't hear it. Okay. Not Abby is messing with her internet. Oh no. Okay, let me try to re-add her. Thank y'all for rocking with us. I know this is not an easy topic. Wait, where'd she go? Oh, weaponizing. But yes, so while I'm trying to get her back, I hope, like, you know, we did put a trigger warning. Maybe I should have pinned it. But this is really a big issue. This is something that, like, when I say I was hot last week. Like, I could not only was I trying to get better from being sick, but I was just like, we cannot keep talking about these issues of violence against women, like, as if it's not a consistent thing, as if it's not an issue that we need to, like, address as a whole, because it's ridiculous, it's sickening, and honestly, it pisses me off more than anything. So if I'm coming off angry today, just know I got a reason, okay? Okay, she is back. Let's see if we can reconnect her. So yeah, and what we were leaving off on is like, how do we reimagine the future for our people? Hey sis.
Hi.
I'm blaming your Comcast. I'm like,
you know what it was? My phone literally started overheating.
Oh, we are in.
My phone is stressed.
Your phone is stressed. We stressed. My lights are stressing me out. I know. It's a lot.
Literally.
But yeah, so like reimagining, or not even I guess just imagining in general, like what that future looks like. I think for me, the biggest thing is like the empowerment and the education of people. So that like, I really believe in this whole teach a man to fish theory instead of giving them the fish. Cause I feel like what we've done as diaspora is like give money and give money and give money and like build the things that we wanted, but we didn't get to like actually like let the people lead that themselves. And I feel like if we did, they might even like, I feel like they know their problems better than we do.
Literally,
like,
yeah.
They're on the ground. They know what they need instead of us trying to tell them what they need because we grow up in Western countries and we think we know what's best for them. Like, can we just all agree that growing up in America is trash, is ghetto? Can we agree on that?
Literally, it's not shit. Like there's so much context we lack. Like there's so much understanding I know I lack about, you know, like people's lives to a place that I feel so drawn to and so connected to. Like I have there's no way that I should like dictate any sort of like you know, like what exactly rebuilding is going to look like, or like the path forward. It's like, I just know that I want to mobilize to like help that effort. And I know the like themes of what I want that to be, which is like, you know, access to resources, but like what resources those are like to be defined by the people that need them most, you know, and that's something like, that's something everywhere that we should implement. And like is, you know, like what I have learned a lot is like the people who are most affected like should be in control of like of alleviating the symptoms that are harming them, right? So like in the US, that looks like, you know, Black trans women who are having access to resources that are going to make their everyday lives more livable. And then in Tigray, that's going to look like, you know, poor Tigray women like having the access they need to what they define will make their lives more livable, you know. So that's and where we come in is like, okay, we look around and we look at what we've got, and that's also like, you know, that's a mutual aid practice also. Like I know that's been up in the conversation a lot this past year in the States, is like people are like, we need to move towards structures of mutual aid. And like I think in the diaspora, like we have really beautiful mutual aid practices, like, you know, the way like people do like book open whatever, and like they pour all this money into a pool, someone gets that pool of money, no questions asked, you know, and everyone knows that if what they put in they will one day get back, but there's no sort of like you know, no one's holding it over each other's head ever. It's just sort of like, I'm putting into this because I want to help you develop what you need to develop. So I think that there's a way that we can, you know, like we should just do that globally. Like and I think we're trying to do that. But
no, I'm with you. I've been saying that for the last couple of years, just within our family, like the kids, even though we're all adults now, but like the point is like, I was like, we need to do our own uku, like outside of our parents. And I was like, we need to start investing in property, and we need to start investing in like mutual funds or IRAs or bonds or whatever. I was like, as a family, we're like collectively more powerful than we are individually. So definitely been planting that seed, and like, well, all of us need to be working and have steady jobs, but like we're just the idea of starting to think long term and thinking future oriented and thinking about not only like, because if I give you $1 today, you might go get your food and then that's it. And then you need $1 tomorrow. Like, but we have to do both at the same time. Like we got to make sure that they're fed, you know, that they have shelter, that they have clothes, that they have like their basic needs met. But like more than that, what skills do you need that we can teach you? Like we have been blessed enough to be educated. So like, what can I teach you to make sure? And when I say like educate women, it's not just educate them like book smart. I'm like, they're really good at mobilizing, but like even teaching them like the different structures of how to like, you know, campaign, how to create their social movements of their own, so that they're stronger in that. Because we've talked about this before, right? So it's like people think of social activism and they think protests, right? Like that's all they think. There's so much shit behind the protest. Like there's so much shit behind the protest. The protest is the visible part. That's the flashy, the sexy part that people like. It's not really sexy, but like people see and they get excited about, and they post their pictures and all that stuff. One, you got to plan those things. You got to make them effective, right? But more than that, like it's what other roles are you playing? Who are the people fed? Do they have water? Are they ready to, if they have to meet violence, are they ready for that? Do they know what that looks like? Do you know the pertinent laws in your country? That is this even legal for you? Like how much danger are you putting yourself in? And then more than that, like how are you building a structure and an organization that's going to maintain itself after you? Like I feel like a lot of our women, like they do amazing work, but think about it, like it's not really translating to us. Like our moms have their mahabas, they have their groups, they have like their structure and their function, but we don't just like take that on, like, right? It's not formal, nothing is written. They just know it because they grew up in that culture. Like we grew up in it to an extent, but we have a heavy American influence. So the way that we're going to kind of remix that for our generation is going to look different. And it's going to look different for them because we're no longer living in silos. So like our culture is great, but it doesn't translate into the global economy. So for me, I'm thinking of like, how do we equip our women to compete in the global economy, to participate in it? You know what I mean? To be engaged on multiple levels. And that in itself is also part of social activism, because you need to be a voice. And in order for you to do that, that's a political game too. You got to understand how to be politicians. So what do our women say all the time? They don't talk politics. They leave that to the men. And you see what happens when we leave it to the men. So
their egos. And it's like, you know, like, yeah, like our culture of women, like they're much more tactile and like pragmatic than that. And I just had a conversation with a cousin yesterday who was saying like one of the ways that we can sort of build up resources is like in the States is like to really empower people to be educated in a variety of things. Like, of course we need the doctors, like, you know, we need all the things that our parents tell us to be, but like we need the computer scientists, like we need the coders, we need the artists, we need the filmmakers, like we need lawyers, we need politicians, like we need people making fucking movies. Like it doesn't matter. Like we need, like there can be and should be a way that in the diaspora, like we are making sure that everyone's equipped over here in a variety of things so that we have, like the point she was making was like, we need to make sure that we have all the social, political, and economic capital that we need on this side to make shit move on that side, you know?
Yeah.
And you know, she was saying, she was like, or alluding to like how differently this situation could have gone down, like if we had more of that economic and political capital. And part of that is like us being, you know, just like educated deeply in a variety of ways, and like people, and part of that hopefully is like empowering people to pursue their passions and like to let them know that everything they do is like valuable to our people.
Absolutely. Like, yeah, I think you're hitting on something big for me, right? Because talked about this before, but like the degree path I chose was not one that anyone ever thought about, right? Like in our community, like mental health, what, you know what I'm saying? Like they were all confused. They're like, well, why is that useful?
Look at us now, bitch.
Thank you. I be doing, you know, my face be telling, I'd be like, ma'am, the amount of toxic coming out of your mouth right now is exactly what we talk about mental health. Like that shit is, you need a lot, you know? So it's kind of like, for me, thinking about that, especially when you're talking about arts, right? So like the other thing, like I see myself, one, as a healer, but also two, as a storyteller. And something that has been hurting us the most for any of us who have been doing behind the scenes work is the narrative of Tigray. It doesn't, like, it's not our own narrative. Our narrative has been given through other people's lenses. You know what I mean? We didn't have like, I mean, there are books and there's things that and we're reading now, but there's so many books that were never written. Like so much of our history is oral. And then you have people who don't even speak the language and don't understand it, right? And it's like, even the translation. Bro, I was talking to Maul, shout out to him when he sees this, but we were talking about like when we're trying to translate things from Tigray to English, right? Bro, tell me not. There's like 10 different explanations for one word. So like
it's a limited language, first of all. English has disgusting limitations. Like there's so much you cannot convey in the English language, and like it's tragic that we cannot capture like so much of what, you know, is like happening in other languages.
It's really hard. A lot of us, like the younger kids, thank God, like they're getting the better end of the deal because we were the test dummies, but we didn't. Like a lot of us did not actively read and write. Most of our parents don't actively read and write because they didn't get to finish their education. Like a lot of them, like a lot of parents will be, I finished this grade, I finished up until this, and then they had to flee. So they never even got to finish their education themselves. So like, thank God our language is still in existence. You know what I mean? Because just like, that's so violent for us. Like you literally rip apart our identity because we don't even have the ability to like speak our mother tongue. So to me, it's like, that's something that's really big that the diaspora should, you know, really take up now. I'm going to hold myself accountable too. Like my Tigray, when I'm there, it takes a while, but it comes back. You know what I mean? It's still trash with my accent, but it's like, at least like I can understand and I can submerge and like kind of soak it in. But overall, like how many of the things, like those of us youth behind the scenes that are really part of this movement and are really trying to push it forward, like we get so much things that are in Tigray and Amharic, and we don't even have a way of translating it. So we're like looking for people to translate constantly. you know? And then for us as skeptical Americans, I don't really always trust your translation. You know what I mean? Like, if I can't read it for myself, I just move on. I'm like, whatever. Like, and it might be some really important information, but I'm not about to sit here and go to 10 different people trying to get you to translate it. You only translate half of it, or you take it out of context, you know? Like, I'm like, okay. So like, that's problematic, right? So it's things like that where I say, like, I think the mutual aid can be beneficial. Like, I feel like there's things that we need to understand and learn about our culture, and help bridge that divide, because there's so many things that we criticize, but we're criticizing it through a Western perspective, instead of like first trying to understand why they have it that way in the first place, and then addressing like, okay, I see why you do that, but let me tell you there's a better way to do this. Or like just, you know, kind of having more of a respectful dialogue with our parents, because for them, they're not used to kids talking back to them. That's not a culture they grew up in. So as much as they want us to be educated, they really don't like when we talk back to them and criticize them and tell them that what they're doing is wrong, and, you know, this and the third. So
yeah, and I think there's a way that we can be like a lot more gracious about it, where we can recognize like these things were appropriate for a certain context, and we can totally like appreciate that they worked for that, you know, for them at that time, whatever. And then also be like, for our context, like, this is how we're going to remix it, you know? And I think we just have to like literally just like be gracious about it, just like be loving about it. And hopefully like our parents will meet us in the same way too, because we don't want to like communicate disrespect, but we also like, you know, like we have to translate things for different contexts. And there was something you were saying about storytelling also that like really resonated, is like, I think like something that has been hard about this time, and you know, like we're private people, like there's so many ways we don't express our emotion, and like I want us to like express like the grief of this moment and like the heaviness of this moment, and I feel really complicated about it, because it's like, you know, the forum that I have like is Instagram, and sometimes it feels like if I'm writing, you know, for like whatever audience on Instagram, it feels like I'm making the grief like an aesthetic or something, or like something to be consumed. But I think like I want to think about that differently, and I want like to invite people to think about that differently, and like,
oh, I think you're covering your mic.
But I was just saying, like, I think it's really important right now to like share how this feels, and like what this is doing to our families, and like how our families are experiencing this, you know, and like being really honest like about the grief and the heaviness of it all. And like I think it's important like for us to be honest for one another, but then also for like people who understand the severity of the situation. Like it's so important to like convey the emotion of this, you know, and the like embodied experience of this, like especially because we're not able to get those kinds of details, both because of the blockout and because of how traumatic it is like from our people. So I think it's important for us here, like if we include in our activism and in our storytelling, like, you know, like how painful this is. And I also think like, you know, like I'm hearing a lot and like seeing a lot like people honoring these like, you know, the generals that are dying and who are being captured and killed, and like the foreign minister. And it's like, we should absolutely honor them. But like, what about our family members that we're hearing about? You know, like how can we honor them as well? You know, like everyday people, like farmers, whoever, who are losing their lives in this, like, you know, they deserve to like have their name said and respected, and for us to like honor them, because we can't grieve in the way that we normally do right now. You know, people can't gather, like we can't bury our dead. So like there has to be some way that we like, you know, that we bring them forth to the world and say like they lost their lives to this and it's painful, and like we honor them, and hopefully that can help also in the like collective, you know, healing of this also, is like finding new ways to like grieve and like share that with one another.
You know, I be crying on this podcast all the time, and it's like it's just who I am at this point. Like they just come when they want, you feel me? Like it is what it is. But that was something that people really talked to me about, like, because people were thanking me a lot, and I'm still trying to get used to it when people thank me for things. But when I like in the beginning of this, I had put out the video and I was all the boohoos, all the like, it was not cute. and I just remember like that kind of like slightly went viral on a scary, like for me viral, right? Because I'm not that big of a public person. But a lot of people were like, thank you for showing like your actual emotions and like allowing us to feel safe enough to like express ours. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Like y'all, like I'm not just crying to cry. You know what I mean? Like it's really like we need to release that because we can't hold it. Like I personally cannot hold it. At this point in my life, I can't. I don't have room for it. I can't hold anger, and I can't hold fear, and I can't hold sadness for that long. Like it really makes me like physically sick because I do fight an illness every day, right? So I've learned that I have to cry, even as ugly as it is sometimes. Like I actually have to let it out. And I really implore people to do that more. Like our good sis Mility, like, you know, the other day.
Yeah,
like,
my heart. Yeah.
I was just like, you know, and for us, I think like we need to encourage it more and support it. And I know a lot of people were reposting and everything, because you think about it, like a lot of people who know me as the strong one. And so when I cry, it really forces them to like cry because like, you know what I mean? Like when it's the person that's usually helping you hold together and you see them break down, it really makes other people break down. So like for me, when I see Mility, I was like, oh, that's what you guys felt when I cried. I was like, okay, that makes sense to me now. Cause I really like, I mean, if anyone knows her, like she holds it down. You know what I mean?
She holds it down.
Like
oh
this,
my God. And she does everything for everyone, you know, like
all the time.
Yeah. It's important. It's powerful. And like, we shouldn't be, you know, like there's no shame about this being fucking hard. And there's no shame about like grieving, you know, and there is no like nobility, I think, in suppressing emotion. Exactly. It's toxic for our body, you know, and it's only going to prevent us from like healing in a really holistic way, and healing like in like healing for the long term in a real way, you know, in the way that doesn't get trapped in our bodies and like born into our fucking children, you know. So I think like, I encourage us like so much to like express and release, and you know, that doesn't mean like it's for public consumption, but even just amongst ourselves, you know, even if it's on Clubhouse, raggedy app, we are there just like crying in the Clubhouse, you know, like whatever we need to do to like release some of this, you know, because it's
a lot.
It's bad. It's a lot. And like I don't really know how to at this point, like the only way I know how to move through overwhelming feelings like is crying about it, you know, like I don't really get angry anymore, like I just get like teary, you know, like so it's like however you need to move through things, and it's like however you need to move through those things like is how you should move through them. And like I want us to like empower one another to like do what feels good for ourselves also.
Absolutely. Hey,
you
know, I'm always up for a good cry, so hit your girl.
I'm always up for a good cry.
I'm always up for it. I kid you not, I really like, I was watching and I'm not like emotional for like political things and shit like that, but like when I was watching today, like Kamala being sworn in, seeing Michelle, first of all, Michelle was laid and slayed, okay?
Michelle is a goddess.
Like laid and slayed, okay? Woo! Okay, I just gotta put some respect on her name. But like legit, when I saw that, like I was emotional because I was thinking of the little girls who like your first time seeing this, you know, like my little cousins are watching women, like not only women but Black women take the lead. So like there's not gonna be this, I mean there's always barriers, but they're gonna know that they can get there because they've seen it happen. Like there's a roadmap for them now, you know what I mean? So it's like I'm just like internally just grateful for that, and I want to see the same thing happen in Tigray. I want to see the same thing. Like y'all be excited about the first woman president in Ethiopia. No, we need the first woman prime minister of Tigray too. Like I need all of that. I need us at the forefront. I need us on the back end. I need us in the middle and everywhere between. Like I need women to be centered because I really am like fully truthfully do not feel like this world is going to progress until we start putting respect on women. Like, it's just not, it just doesn't even make sense. That's why I kept using Tupac's song as like the music for this. It was like
was it Dear Mama?
Yes, and it's like, y'all really disrespect the shit out of women, and we birthed you. Like,
not just that, like, you know, it's like it's everything. Like, women do literally everything. Like, there is nothing that a man does that a woman can't do, and that you can't do better.
Amen.
You know, like, men started this war. Like, tell me any different. They're the weakest link. So,
amen. As brothers who are upset, I mean, listen, I still love you. I just gotta hold you accountable, because we don't hold you accountable enough. We propagate y'all up too much. We boost your ego. We stroke all that. So we're gonna have to we're gonna keep a real G with you, okay? We are going to keep a real G.
And it also is like, you know, like my vision of healing is like inclusive of men, period. Like, it's inclusive of all people. Like, no one, like, patriarchy damages men so immensely, you know, like men who feel like it is, you know, like, I don't even know like how they're inscripting men into this war, like, you know, whatever, but like, there's no reason that like men should be convinced to put their lives on the line for a nation because it's going to make them a man, you know, like that makes no sense to me. Like, it makes no sense to me that we teach men that like violence is their birthright. That's so harmful. They don't get to
raising them to be slaughtered. What are you talking about?
I know, like, it's heartbreaking. Like, all those Somali mothers who are like begging for their sons. That shit is crazy, you know. And it's like, there's no reason. Like, all those lives are being lost in the name of power, and that's sick. Like, we should not have the relationship that we have to power. Like, we need to let that go, you know. Like, for the sake of our spirits, like literally, like, for the sake of our humanity, you know. Like, we're not able to access like our full selves and like a loving life when we like continue to turn towards violence and towards power. So I think that is something I want everyone to understand, and like I want everyone to turn towards and like be curious about also. And that's something that we should have really open conversations about, you know. And I think it's also really scary. Like, we know it's like hard to turn towards what you can't see or like don't know. And all we know right now like is patriarchy and capitalism and white supremacy and like, you know, all these like various systems of domination. And it's like it feels weird to say it, but like we have a relationship to these things that we don't know how to let go of because we haven't seen any different. But I think we do see different in like when we see loving collective communities like you know, that's a practice that undermines capitalism, bro. Because they're not relying on any financial institution. They're relying on each other. And what goes around comes around. It's so collective, you know? So it's like there's ways we're already practicing that, like, you know, things outside of this system that don't perpetuate violence, that don't perpetuate, you know, systems of domination. So it's like we just have to turn towards that and like turn away from what we know, which like I know is so scary, but it's like this life isn't sustainable, you know? Tigray being under the threat of violence is not sustainable. Like Black women being under the threat of violence in the US all fucking day is not sustainable. Like people working for like 40 to 80 hour weeks in a pandemic is unsustainable. Like we have seen it. Yeah, like it makes no sense, you know? So just say, like, we just have to say no. We have to say like, this is unacceptable for our lives, you know? This is unacceptable for our futures.
And that's why it's very like key that people understand that until those systems are abolished and gone, you gotta be more strategic about how you align yourself with like social movements and protest and like revolution, right? Like we have to be good about that. We have to understand what that actually means and what that actually looks like and how we do it better. And the reason why I say the behind the scenes stuff is way like not more important than but it needs to be as important as the visible things. Like those who are tweeting and doing stuff, you need to also think about behind the scenes, how am I building structures to replace, right? Like, and like reimagine like systems and institutions that actually hold up the values that we want to live by instead of the values that we're forced to live by.
Yeah.
So that's
I
what
think
I really want.
Yeah, and it's like we have an opportunity right now to like redefine our values, right? Like if we see that the status quo is not working, then we can take a step back and be like, okay, like what do we need? Like what do we need moving forward to live a compassionate, fulfilling life? You know, what are the resources we need to live easily, like to live happily? And like we have the opportunity to define those things. Like nothing is set in stone, you know, everything is negotiable, and each of us have a power in bringing that forward. So it's also about like us empowering one another and being like each of us, no matter our role and no matter our expertise, whatever that is, even like we're each a creator, and we each have power in that, and we each like should be, you know, like committed to just that creation itself. So I think there's so much, like there's just so much opportunity, you know, and it sounds weird to say that in the midst of like really extreme violence, but we have so much opportunity to like build a literal new world, like for Tigray, but then also like here in the States, because what we do in Tigray, like what we do for Black people in Tigray, like that matters everywhere.
Yeah,
you know,
it does. So we got to be an example of like, there's a better way to do this, man. Like shit is getting old. Like it is entirely like unnecessary. All the thoughts and feelings we have about that, but just for the sake of time, and because you know, so I could do this all day. Like, I really can. I love talking about this stuff. I live in it. But I want to ask, I guess like the wrap up question that I want to ask you, that I feel like I kind of already know the answer. What do you want your legacy to be? What are you hoping to leave in this world that is going to outlive you?
I'm curious to see what you thought my answer would be. I think I'm still in the process of defining this. But I think like have you read All About Love by Bell Hooks? Have you read that? All About Love by Bell Hooks?
I haven't read it yet.
Okay, you should.
I was like, I had to really like visualize my bookshelf. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah. It's really, really good. But she, you know, like the whole book is about what it means to live life with a love ethic, and like live life from a place of love, and like how that connects to justice, and all of these things. So when I think about my legacy, it's like, I want people to remember me as like being someone loving, you know, like period. And that informing like everything that I do in the world and like how I relate to people. But then also like, I know that part of my legacy is going to be helping people like find new ways of relating to one another. And that might look like relating to one another like through love and kinship, rather than like, I don't know, like through violence. I'm still like, you know, like, I don't know how we relate to each other currently. Like I still have to figure that out before I like learn what it means like to, you know, to show people new ways of relating. But I think part of that, like something that I feel like I have shown people and like practice a lot is like I love my friends like family, like so deeply. They are a part of my life. Like all my cousins know my close friends, like they love each other, like everyone feels like family. And one of my cousins was like, you have changed for me like what non-romantic relationships can look like what platonic love can look like, and what friendships can look like, and that they should be as invested in as you know, as romantic relationships or as familiar relationships. Like I think any way that we relate to one another like should be like deep and have so much intention. And I'm not the first one to come up with this, right? Like I learned this like through scholars, like through, you know, people who practice this all the time. So I think, yeah, like I just want to leave this world knowing that like I brought more love into it. And yeah, I think it's as simple as that.
That's what I was gonna go along those lines. I had a feeling, like I was like, I'm pretty sure it has to do with this, because I feel like, and I don't know if Madeline is still in here, but she said something that's like stuck with me since the episode that we recorded. And it's not like a new thing, but it, like the way she said it just kind of really stuck out to me is like, I can only attract who I am. So I feel like without even knowing you, like I just was like, I know this girl. Like, you know, I was like, because I am this girl. And I can tell we've done the same like type of work where we're trying to unlearn the shit that was harmful to us. And so I said that too. Like I was like, if my legacy is leaving love in this world, and like that is like an act of resistance in and of itself, because to be a Black woman in this world is to be attacked to the point where we're like, our humanity is like constantly under attack and under pressure. So like for me, like joy, love, laughter, lightness, femininity, like all of that is just like an act of resistance every day. And so like for me to be able to show up authentically in this way is me giving other Black women permission to like be that too. Like we can be in the middle of a shitstorm and we should still be able to experience joy. Like I'm not with this whole philosophy that I have to suffer fucking 24/7, and if I'm not, then I don't care. Like
that's one primacy.
It is. I'm like, you could take that shit somewhere else, okay?
That's cop behavior.
Yes, I'm like, you go over there. Me, I'm about to like, I'm gonna do the work and I'm gonna enjoy myself too, because this is the only life I have. Like, there's suffering everywhere around me, like even within me that I'm still working on. So like, if I find a moment of joy, you best believe I'm riding that wave till it's done. Like, and if I can bring joy into your life, like even throughout this, like I've had friends, and I had my little on here like a couple weeks ago, like she's my accountability partner. So when you're talking about relationships, and like I'm like, this is my soulmate, not in a romantic way, but like I love this girl. My best friend's the same way. It's like we might as well have came from the same womb. Like we're, you know what I mean? Like you can have that. You can have soulmates. You can have intimate relationship with your friendships, because that also helps you not put all your eggs in the basket of your relationship. Whatever your romantic partner, like I don't care if you're hetero or not, but like you don't need to put all that weight on them, because I can still get intimacy in different relationships and in different ways from multiple people. So it's really community of love. And like you're just the person that's my partner that's gonna go on this journey with me. But like I don't expect you to provide everything for me. Like I can get that outside of our relationship too. So you know what I mean? Like things like that. And so I feel like part of that is this legacy of creating a world where people get to be authentically themselves in whatever way that looks for them, as long as it's like a place of love. And that's what I got from you, and that's something that I ascribe to too. So I'm like, yes, so we are here with it. I want to just take a moment to thank you. I know there's not a lot of people that I can just have these conversations with, like whether it's because they're not knowledgeable on it or because they're just not public people and refuse to go on live or on podcast. But I just want to take a moment to say that to you, and just to speak that into you, because I feel like you're doing it already. And whatever way I can help you amplify that, and whatever you end up doing and creating, like I want to support that, and I want to lift you up. There's a reason why I chose to do Black Women Wednesday. There's a reason why I chose you to be on here. Like this is what I want to see more in the world, you know? So I just, you know, I really got to just take time. I really enjoy this bigging up my girls. Like, it's like my favorite. I'm like, yes, queen, do that. Whatever you need, let me know. Come on a platform whenever you want. It's yours as much as it is mine. So I really just want to say that I want to appreciate you. You're amazing. You're dope. I love like just the way that you are in this world. It's beautiful. It really is.
Thank you. No, it's, you know, it's likewise, like times 1,000. And I think like, you know, we attract each other like for this reason, because like we are trying to create those spaces. And I think the more that like we are ourselves and we like show people what that looks like it gives them permission also. Like you've given me so many permissions to like be free, be emotional, like be outspoken about these things. And I think I'm happy that people see us in partnership, you know, in this way, and like, and that continues to spread. Like, you know, there's no way we're gonna make it out of this mess, like whether that be the US or Tigray, like without you know, like community building like this. So
Oh yeah.
I appreciate you like so deeply, and I love you, and I'm happy that you're here and that you're healthy.
Yeah.
And you know, like that this platform is here. It's necessary now. It's urgent right now, and it will continue to be. You know, like it's so generative. Like I'm walking away, like feeling like I created something in this hour with you, and that's such a nice feeling. You know, like that's
yes,
so
I love it.
Yeah.
Man, no, for real. I accept, I receive. I'm trying to do this thing where I don't talk back when I get a compliment. I just accept
Amen.
it. I receive it. I accept it, I receive. That's it. Those of y'all in the comments, take that lesson. When people compliment you, just accept and receive the love. If it's negative, go ahead and rebuke that shit and send that somewhere else.
Right, not for me. But yeah, everyone's so sweet. Thank you.
I know there. I told you, you a proud favorite girl. Don't even trip. I'm telling you. She is a voice of reason. If you're not following her, please do. I'm gonna save this. It will be on here. Yes, this was needed. It was necessary. And I'm not joking. I'm always here for a cry session. So do not feel like you gotta hold that in, sis. You got my number. Call. You know, go ahead, call. But what's up?
You don't want a Clubhouse cry room.
I know, bro.
Real sad hours on Clubhouse.
Yes, we're gonna be like.
Real
Listen,
Drake
if
hours.
you're not here for the tears, get off the stage. We here for the tears, okay? Exactly. What they say, we sending you to the gulag, okay? Like, you gotta go. You got to go. Maybe tonight I might need a debrief after this meeting. I have been a little bit, but no, for real, I love you so much. Thank you for just being here. Thank you everybody who Christine said, what time, sis? I don't know. We'll ping you. Don't worry.
Right.
We be up. Like I said, I don't be sleeping, so if I be late.
Girl, my bedtime is 10. It is a strict 10 p.m.
Listen.
That's a you problem.
Yes. Back in the day, like 3 weeks ago, I was with you. Now,
not the beginning of the year.
No, I was like, shit. I'm man, I don't think you understand. Okay, like everyone who calls me now, like that I work with behind the scenes, they're like, do you sleep? Do you believe in it? Like, is that? I was like, listen, time is a man-made concept.
Literally, we can. Okay, next live is about time. Yes. I have words about time,
girl, and I got all the ear for it because time is a made-up concept. Like it's fake. It is
a literal colonial imagination. Like time does not exist for Black people, period.
It doesn't.
Period.
Time is fake. If that's anything that you take from this life, please take that shit because time is fake. It really is. So, man, no, this is amazing, dope. I'm going to save this. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. Share, like, subscribe, all that other shit. Like, you know, whatever people say when they're supposed to end these things. So... That's gonna be a good night to everybody, and I'll probably text you after.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.